Hey, welcome to a Rumble video that I decided to make because, I've released No Bank 5 like last week at this point, and the following days, obviously, I just sort of took a bit of a break from making videos, and now I'm sort of working on my backlog, which, by the way, don't expect too much more daily uploads. I just had a couple of backlog ideas that I had to work through, and they're pretty much done, so expect regular stuff again, but, yeah, I decided to make a Rumble video because RuneScape content kinda sucks at the moment, or at least like it's very stagnant. It's not the content is bad, but it's also not very good from my perspective. It's just very samey, and that's sort of what I want to talk about in this video. Again, it's mostly gonna be a Rumble thing, not actual like arguments or whatever, or the structure like I try to bring to my other content discussion. This is just gonna be literally a Rumble, and on top of that, I decided to actually not mention anyone directly or anyone by name, even though there's some examples specific to some content creators, but I decided to not name them because I think the point of this Rumble is just sort of to make people think on the content they make or the content they consume, as opposed of actually like, wanting to start drama or whatever. I don't. I just, I care a lot about content, and I care a lot about the content that is done. And I mean, if you look at my No Bank series especially, you can understand that probably, right? Yeah, I mean, my No Bank series is just a series that I was like, yeah, man, this is what I want to watch on YouTube, and there wasn't anything like that. But yeah, I think that like when I was just looking through content, and obviously I play both games, I consume both games content. I consume a lot of content, even of games that I don't play. I consume a lot of Terraria content, Minecraft content. I do play Minecraft sometimes, but I don't play Terraria. I don't really play, stuff like Stardew Valley, for example. Even though I still watch videos of those games, and I just consume a lot of content, and it seems to me that at least compared to RuneScape 3. RuneScape 3 is a bit stagnant when it comes to the type of content that exists, especially the type of videos. I feel that the videos are very blah for the most part. I think that a lot of them focus on the guide aspect. I think that a lot of them focus on the, just the guides and stuff like that for higher level players and not necessarily, more fun. I think that outside of lore channels, which I'm glad that they exist, I don't really see a lot of content. It's not like RuneScape 3 lacks content by any means. It does plenty. It has more than old school RuneScape, but it's just like, I don't understand why isn't there a bigger exploration of it. Like, I understand that for the most part, because of the, viewer pool that RuneScape 3 has, because obviously the viewer pool is not as big as old school, so you can't maybe afford to make videos that are a bit more unique, so you sort of have to make videos of what everyone else is making, which is usually why everyone, at least the top creators, tend to make guides every time a new piece of content comes out and stuff like that, the date comes out. For the most part, yeah, like I understand, obviously the viewer pool is not as big. If you do this as a job, you kind of need to secure money, so you need to secure the viewer base or the viewership right away. And I know the guides usually are the things that give the most amount of views. I mean, I would know. I just posted a Zola guide a few weeks ago, and yeah, that's doing way better than everything else in my channel. But yeah, like I understand that, but at the same time, I just don't think it should be used as a justification. Ultimately, there's a problem that I find, which is I think that in RuneScape 3 especially, if you only make content that is like guides, especially for the more hardcore players that care a lot about efficiency and meta and stuff like that, that's the only content that's going to be available, and as a result the people that will be watching content are people that only care about those things. Most casual players and stuff like that are not even going to bother watching your content, because what's the point? It's not made for them. And again, I just find like the lack of content in RuneScape 3 sort of interesting. Like, I don't necessarily consider myself a RuneScape 3 content creator by any means, so I don't necessarily insert myself in this pool, given that I also play old school. I also make old school RuneScape content, which is why I kind of have this perspective on RuneScape 3 content, because I compare it a lot to old school. And yeah, like I mean, I always try to make content, at least to me, that I enjoy. I like talking about the game. I like talking about the content in the game and how players, interact with it and stuff like that. And that's why I have so many content discussion videos, oh yeah, let's talk about achievement diaries or that content, or how to deal with skills not being fun to train and stuff like that, so I mostly just make content for both games, and my content is already, I at least try to approach it in a perspective of not being like other content around YouTube. I always strive to make content that was somewhat unique to a point. I know that I don't, as a result, attract the most amount of people, but it's unique, and I feel that I give, I want to like try and give the space for people that don't want to watch, guides and stuff like that, but that's sort of the issue. Like compared to old school, for example, where you have a lot of picking videos, and I can guarantee you that the vast majority of people that watch picking videos don't actually PK themselves. They don't, it's a lot of GP investment. You require a lot of just skill. It's a huge skill ceiling, so there's essentially a lot that goes into it, and those videos are super popular. I can guarantee you that the vast majority of people do not actually PK, as PKing is actually not that popular around the game. I would say that like maybe 15 to 20% of the community actually PKs, which is actually pretty low compared to the amount of people that PVM, for example. Or the people that play Iron even, or have tried Iron, so, but it's still, it's a type of content that people enjoy, that people want to actually watch, especially because they're not actually that good at it, so, they just watch it. Or, for example, those two YouTubers that make challenges together, where like, they set themselves a challenge to make money or something like that, and then they fight, and, I think it's Virtuoso and Tanzu that do it, and it's kind of, there's a lot of interesting content creators in old school that just sort of touch on aspects of the game that not a lot of other people do, and as a result you just have a way more variety and creativity when it comes to the videos that are made compared to RuneScape 3, where, oh look, another guide because Jagex released this update, oh look, another video about how this is a broken method, and because I cannot be convinced that RuneScape 3 does not have players or a player base that has the mentality of just wanting to have fun with the game, outside of wanting to be efficient or doing what's the best XP per hour or whatever. Like, I think those players exist, and I think there's a lot of them. It's just that, when all of the content is guided towards people that are already pretty experienced and want to care about the meta and stuff like that, and not wasting time and stuff like that, of course that, it might appear like people don't care, when in reality they do. So overall, I just think that there's a huge lack of just creativity when it comes to the content. And honestly, for anyone that has watched my average experience videos, the average Alos Epicer and the Volcanic Mine, which I was supposed to have done way more than those at this point, but I don't want to spam the channel with them, even though they did quite well compared to the type of videos that they are. But if you want to do the same thing, if you're a RuneScape 3 content creator watching this and you want to do the same thing, just yoink the ideas. I don't care, honestly. Just actually make, I might do them myself, actually. Fuck it, why not? I just want a little bit more creativity when it comes to actually, like, the ideas are presented. Or maybe these ideas do exist, I'm just not getting those ideas pushed to my feed. But yeah, it's just like, I don't really see it too much. I don't see a lot of these, I just don't see content creators that do random stuff with the game that actually push for, or at least explore the content that is already in the game. And I think that is surprisingly, or at least it's very noticeable when it comes to progress videos. I think that RuneScape 3 progress videos aren't honestly all that great. Maybe it's because I do no bank, so I have sort of an insight on like the effort that I put into the videos and the bar that I set for myself when it comes to those videos. But I just feel confused by a lot of stuff done in RuneScape 3 progress videos, and this is, this comes even before I started making videos again, because I sort of have a couple of problems. I have this joke with people that, by episode 1 you're killing chickens, and by episode 10 you're killing necks or telos or whatever, right? Exactly to, point to the fact that oftentimes when I see a progress video, the progress is just made so fast that most of the times, and I'm someone that I used to have a max cape before Necromancy came out, I'll regain it soon enough. But I just, like, I feel confused. I know quite a bit about the game. I've explored quite a bit about the game. I've experienced it quite a bit, and I still feel confused when I see people just completely zoom through content, zoom through levels, and then like by episode 10 they're killing Telos, and you're just sitting there like, how did you even get there? Like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I just feel it makes me feel lost. And again, I'm already an experienced player. I cannot imagine how confusing it is to be a new player, a more casual player that doesn't have as much time to play the game, or maybe doesn't even care as much about the game, to look at these progress videos and just go, oh, I don't know what that item is, I don't know what that item is, I don't know what that item is, I don't even know like what skilling methods you actually did, right? Like, I don't know how you learned how to do all of these bosses or anything like that. Like, I cannot imagine how confusing it is, and that goes for people that don't even play the game, because I think that's also a huge thing that kind of bothers me about RuneScape 3 content, is that I have seen not a lot of effort into reaching out to make content approachable for people, understandable for people, Like, I'm not saying that every content creator needs to do that, but what I'm saying is, like, I see this quite a lot, especially when it comes to old school, where, and I mean, again, like, I don't play Terraria, I don't play Stardew Valley. I still watch those videos, because a lot of those videos have a lot of production value, they're extremely entertaining, so I watch them, even if I don't play the games. I mean, the games are also appealing to me, and I do own those games, despite not really playing them, as I'm busy with RuneScape, but, like, I still watch those videos. I have no problem watching those videos, as long as it's entertaining, it's fine. And I think that the same goes for RuneScape content. I think there's a lot of people that play the game in like 2005 or 6 that, might not play it anymore, but still enjoy watching the videos, or, players that are just getting into the game right now, or, even players from the other game. I know there's some RuneScape 3 players that watch old school content. The vice versa, though, doesn't really, it's not the truth. There isn't a lot of old school players watching RuneScape 3 content. And that's because I feel that it's just way less approachable, it's way less understanding, and, especially if you don't play the game as an old school player, most shit just goes over your head. It's just so hard for people to actually get into it, and I think that it's unfortunate, because not only do I think that a lot of players from both games would actually benefit from knowing what each other games are actually doing, especially because if I see another person mentioning how sailing is going to be player on ports in RuneScape 3, I'm gonna do something really fucking bad to those people, because fuck me, dude. But yeah, I feel that people would benefit more, and again, I think there's a lot of entertainment to be had, because at the end of the day, both games are RuneScape. So it's a bit weird that you have a lot of RuneScape 3 players maybe watching old school, but not the opposite being true. And I think that big part of that is just how unapproachable a lot of these series are. You just zoom through content, and then there's another problem, which is the lack of engagement. Like, why should I get interested in your Iron Man, for example, when you've had 4 others that you never bothered to finish? Because, and I know that some content creators are especially at fault at this, which is they create an Iron Man, they play that Iron Man, they zoom through early game, because late game is where it's get good, as if, the fucking early game wasn't fun either. Like, just because I have the most fun killing Zac, doesn't, I don't kill Zac, by the way, I don't have that skill level, but let's say that, just because I have my most fun killing Zac, doesn't mean that the early game was bad. Yeah, it might be less fun than the late game, but it's still fun, and I think it deserves to be paid attention to. And RuneScape 3, again, has so much content, right? So when I see content creators just zooming through early game, getting to the late game, and then being like, oh, it takes too long to grind, I'm just gonna create another Iron Man, and then they just repeat that process. It's like, why should I be engaged or be interested in your progress? There's no point in getting interested in your progress if you're just gonna abandon the account and create another one. And as someone who has an Iron Man right now, I see that a lot. I mean, I was searching through UIMs, for example, on YouTube before creating it, because I was like, I like to create unique things. So I was looking, okay, has anyone created an UIM? Is anyone created a UIM the same way I am? With the same, mentality or the same editing or whatever. And the 2 series that I came across were both abandoned. And I get it, to a point I get it. It doesn't get as many views, it's incredibly, it takes a lot of time to make, I get it, but the problem is, if you keep just appealing to the hardcore player base, right, newer players are not gonna get interested in your videos, which means that you just need to keep making videos to appeal to the hardcore player base, as opposed to actually growing the viewer base that can actually, also enjoy your videos, engage with your videos, regardless if they play RuneScape 3 or not. I think that's really important, and I think that just restarting progress videos all the time doesn't really do a good job at it. And I think that's why, and that's something I found really interesting, is that, and I think it's a matter of mentality, because in old school, and this already happened a couple of years ago, but I think it's still going strong, which is, there was this, unique Iron Man, as we call them, blew up on YouTube, right? I mean, they've always been around, that's why Iron Man mode was a thing, and Ultimate Iron Man mode were a thing. Those game modes were implemented into the game because people were playing them. I mean, Iron Man mode, Bodhi had a just really popular series called One Man Army, which, by the way, go watch it. I find it really impressive how Bodhi just has this thing of actually enjoying the game while playing, and you can feel that joy. So I recommend you watching it. But that's why Iron Man mode was introduced into the game, because One Man Army was a series where Bodhi couldn't trade, Bodhi couldn't use the GE, he has to get everything himself, and that's why it was popularized. And then when Iron Man mode was introduced, there was a player that I forget his name, but essentially just said, hey, what if I don't just use the bank? I don't like using the bank. And then Ultimate Iron Man mode was introduced into the game, right? A lot of these unique accounts is how game modes are introduced into the game. And quite frankly, obviously, as with the boom of especially Swamp Athletics, I think it was at the forefront of it. By release was also super popular, but there's so many. Caveman Only was also a very popular one, especially on Reddit before he started making videos. There's so many, and that's interesting because in RuneScape 3 that didn't happen. You did have people attempting to do those series, and while there are some series, especially now, I know there's a legacy only account. I know there's a area unlocker by some content creator, I forget, and whatnot, and obviously me with AUIM. But while there are those unique accounts, it's really weird that RuneScape 3 having more content, having more opportunity to play these accounts, hasn't really had a huge surge of this type of videos, of this type of accounts. It's kind of weird. I just think that, again, when you have an hardcore player base that doesn't actually care about this type of accounts because they're not efficient to play, you just sort of, they never really take off. And again, I understand you don't get as many views, it's your job, but at the end of the day, it's you kind of do need to appeal to a broader audience, or at least to try and entice people to watch your videos, even if they don't play the game or they're old school players or whatever, because if you don't, you're gonna get stuck with the same people all the time, so you won't be able to make any new videos, which just makes the content more stagnant, which makes it so it doesn't appeal to people, right? And it's a sort of a feedback loop. And look, and to address the thing, just because it's your job, I don't think you should do certain things. I get it, you want to get views, especially when it comes to the guides thing, right? Because, and I saw these two instances, and I'm gonna be completely honest, what the fuck are people doing? Before Necromancy was released, and because Jagex did kind of spoil things a bit, I didn't get spoiled because I didn't watch, but I know that Jagex has revealed a lot before the skill was released. I saw a 1-299/120 guide weeks before the skill was released. The thing is, it was a preparation guide, but the thing is, it was essentially presented, both the thumbnail and the title were presented as if it was the actual guide, to try and get people to click, wait, has Necromancy already been released, because of all the hype? It's kind of shit, to do that thing. And I saw someone else release a Necromancy, an actual Necromancy guide before the release of the skill, a day before. Ironically, it got outdated right away as the skill dropped, but it's still it's that thing where I understand, you want to get in the search results before everyone else, so you accumulate the most amount of views because this is your job and you need the views and you need the ad revenue and everything, but kind of a fucking dick move. If I make guides and I'm sitting there waiting for the skill to drop, to be respectful to other content creators, to also allow them time to make their own guides, and then, let the best guide win type thing, and then you just come in and drop it before everyone else, even though your guide is definitely going to be way more inaccurate than ours. Kind of shit. I mean, I don't make guides, but, kind of a fucking dick move, personally, oh, sure, you can do it, no one's saying that you can't, but kind of a dick move, and going back to progress videos, it's like, yeah, I think I have this theory where it's like, I think that people, because from the UIMs I saw, the progress videos of the UIMs I saw, one thing is pretty clear: the mentality playing them was exactly the same as playing a normal iron, and that's really bad. And it's really bad because, for the most part, the fan of unique accounts is how you go about doing things, because there's no meta, there's no efficiency, no one knows everything. For the most part, people are not going to be playing your type of account, and even if they do, chances are they're going to impose themselves different restrictions than you have. And that is the fun part, is that for the most part it feels like an adventure. It feels like you're a noob figuring stuff out and going through the world, eventually achieving a goal. That's the fun part of this type of accounts, which means that if these accounts don't appeal to you at the beginning, in early game, rushing towards the late game where it gets good is not going to save you, because these type of accounts late game get way worse than they are early game. And I saw a lot of people do that exact mistake with a lot of special type of accounts. They did a couple of episodes, they rushed through the early game, and then late game is just either the same as regular Ironman because they don't know, or their series restrictions wasn't that great, or they just stopped having fun because the restrictions became too much. And that's exactly the problem. It's like, you can't rush this type of accounts. The point of this type of accounts is how fun they are existing, not necessarily that they're fun in late game or whatever, right? And lastly, because I think that this is a point that I think that I really prove just how unapproachable RuneScape 3 series are. And this is a pet peeve of mine, which is, sometimes I'm watching progress videos, and look, I'm going to be completely honest. I have a laptop, the screen isn't that big. It's also not super small, but it's not that big. Sometimes I'm in bed, I'm on my phone, watching YouTube. How do I put this on a nice way? I can see what the fuck you're doing. Like, a lot of RuneScape 3 series have this problem, where it's like, you want to see their inventory or abilities or whatever, you can't see them. They're so tiny that you cannot see what the fuck is going on. For the most, like, literally speaking, it's completely like, you don't understand what the fuck is going on, right? Like, you can't see the abilities because it's too tiny, you can't see the inventory. Most of the fight is like also zoomed out so the player can see the fight or whatever, like, and see the mechanics coming and whatnot. But like, it's not fun to watch that. It's really not. Again, like, unless you're a veteran that actually knows what is going on because you've already done the fight or whatever, I can see what's going on, even in full screen. I put the fucking thing in full screen, the video in full screen, to try and actually see what's going on. I don't know what's going on. I don't see it. Like, one of the reasons is why, and look, I don't play in full screen RuneScape 3 because I have a potato that overheats. So if I play in full screen, it will overheat and shut down. So I play it essentially to the point where you start having scroll bars, and then I just a tiny bit bigger so it doesn't have scroll bars. And the thing is, I still try to make the layout the same way that old school is, because I think that the old school UI, the way everything is laid out with a minimap and the clear inventory and stuff like that, the chat, it's just perfect, right? And look, yeah, it's kind of a bit of a challenge, especially at the beginning, until you get used to it, to sort of PVM on a fixed screen that is fucking 700 something. Actually, it's like 800 or 700 by 600 or something like that. Just tiny screens, like 800 by 600 almost, it's kind of a challenge to get used to it, but you eventually do get used to it. And once you do get used to it, it looks so much fucking better on videos, which is exactly why in my UIM series, I have that layout. I have that exact same layout. I have chat box, ability bar, inventory, minimap. I have that layout that way, and it's tiny because ultimately, I want people to be able to see what's in my inventory. I want people to be able to see what's in my chat box. I want people to see what's in my ability bar, right? And I haven't really done a lot of content that requires people to actually pay attention to those things. But once I do, like, I want people to be able to see it. And this is not like something that depends on, having fancy editing or whatever, because that's the thing. I've been going on about my No Bank series. I understand that not everyone wants to like make a super well edited like thing, with story and whatnot. But you don't need to, in order to make things actually understandable and approachable, right? Especially when it comes to the UI of it. And even then, like when it comes to, like, there's a reason as to why. Even though I make RuneScape 3 content, and even though I know that the vast majority of people that are going to watch the video are going to be people that already play the game, already know what content I'm doing and how it works, I still take time to explain the content I'm doing, because in case you don't know what's going on, you don't know how that content works, I still want you to understand it, and I still want people to be able to engage with it or be engaged in the episode and what I'm doing, even if they don't understand it. And you don't even need like fancy screens and editing like sometimes I use to explain those things, right? All I do, I mean, like for example with Emertron, right? And how to train Invention essentially, right? I got level 22, I made Emertron, I then disassembled it for XP the first time, I disassembled it for XP for the second time, and I didn't need to explain that, hey, by the way, using this thing, or like I didn't need anything fancy to explain that you use this thing, it accumulates XP, then when you get to a certain level, you disassemble, you get Invention XP. Pretty self-explanatory. You don't need to play the game. Obviously, it's not as straightforward as that. Obviously, Invention has a lot of moving parts and stuff like that, but that's the point. I just want to explain stuff well enough that people understand what's going on, and I try to not over-explain, which sometimes I still fail because I still over-explain stuff, but I try to not over-explain so, people can actually explore for themselves if they need to. I just want to explain things well enough that people understand what's going on and are able to be engaged with what's going on. Because if people don't understand what's going on, what's the fucking point of watching? If I'm watching fucking League of Legends and I have no fucking clue what champions do or whatever, and, everything is just all over the place all the time because, observers don't know how to observe or whatever, I'm probably not going to watch that. So it's the same thing with RuneScape 3. And, and when it comes to No Bank, I have far more philosophies than that. I have, I try to make a goal per episode because that's something else that I dislike that, not just RuneScape 3, but also old school. I really hate when I'm watching a progress video and then the content creator shifts fucking nothing in it, right? It's just 20 minutes of progress, but you didn't actually get anywhere. Which is why, in my UIM series, my No Bank series, I try to, always make a goal per episode, or even, break it down into smaller goals. I want to unlock Invention. Okay, let's break it down into 80 div, 80 crafting, 80 smithing, right? Because that way, when you watch the episode, I actually achieved something, right? You watched me progress through it, and it's easier to set it up and actually tell a story, because in my case I want to tell a story. I want it to be more than just progress, so I have a lot of philosophies, and especially on the pacing of the episodes and everything, and it takes a lot of effort. I understand that progress videos aren't exactly an easy thing to do. I understand it takes a lot of effort, especially to have a high quality product. And that's the thing, I'm not asking for every progress series in RuneScape 3 to be these fucking, Swampoletics level of cinematics, right? I'm not necessarily asking for that. I'm just asking to, hey, let me see your screen a little bit better, take care that some people are not going to be watching on a fucking plasma screen. Some people are going to be watching your video on their phone. And if people are watching the video on your phone and they can't see what the fuck is going on, you might need to change how things are presented. If people get a bit confused because you just skip through a bunch of progress and what the fuck is going on, it's maybe take a little bit more time to show people what you're doing and stuff like that. Hey, and there's a secret, you can even milk it for more episodes, so you can actually do Telos by episode 30 instead, so you can milk the fucking series, right? So you don't need to start another one as soon. I know I'm being a bit snarky, but it's true, fucking make it, put a little bit of an effort. Again, you don't need super well editing stuff. Just put a little bit of an effort to make it understandable to people, to make sure that people can actually watch it and understand it, right? That they can see what's going on, that they can, be into what's going on, so they can be engaged with it and actually, be interested in what you are doing and what you have to offer, right? And again, when it comes to the rest, just honestly, different ideas. I think that we need different ideas in the scene. I think that we need just people that, create different ideas, and we need to promote those ideas as well, you know? So honestly, if you're a RuneScape 3 content creator, just do what the old school devs do, you know? Old school devs yoink RuneScape 3 content all the time, and they just change it a bit so, you know, it doesn't seem copied. Just do the same thing. Go to old school RuneScape content creators. Hey, this idea seems fun. I'm gonna do it. And that's it. Right? If you don't have your own ideas, might as well. I mean, why the fuck do you think I'm making a UIM out of every fucking type of account? You know, do you think I'm gonna create a special type of account myself with my own? Fuck no. I'll just yoink whatever everyone else was already doing, right? But yeah, that's pretty much it. I guess there's a couple of other things, but those were like the main pet peeves, I guess, that I wanted to touch on. Just the lack of creativity, progress feeds not being very approachable for people that don't play RuneScape 3 or aren't veterans. Because like, and this was something that I had in mind when I started my RuneScape 3 UIM. I know that given the amount of effort and given how small the pool, the viewer pool is, I know that series is not gonna be like the most popular thing ever. I have that consciousness, you know. I know that I mean, just last video I spent like 150 hours, you know, throughout all of it, which kind of ballooned because it wasn't supposed to take that long. But I spent 150 hours. That video is like 100 views, you know. It's nothing amazing. Definitely not for the amount of time that I spent. In those 150 hours, I could have made like 7 average experiences, which probably would have given me way more views and a way bigger push on the algorithm, you know? But it's fine. It's something that I want to make, and I genuinely believe that there are people out there that want less, like, hardcore content. You know, there are people out there that, you know, old school players that might want to watch the game, you know, pre-OC players that don't play the game anymore, maybe are just returning into the game, or even players that played old school in, like, you know, 2005, 2006, and just want to watch some RuneScape content for old time's sake, that, you know, without actually needing to engage into the game or whatever, right? And I think that there's space for them. I think that, you know, there's interest from those parties. I think that we just need to create the content that those parties can actually be interested on, and show to them that, hey, it's here. Because right now we don't have a lot of that content, and honestly, as a result, there's not a lot of interest from those parties. But yeah, that's pretty much it.